Let's get into one of the most heated subjects in modern dating: body count, sexual past, whatever label you want to use. And more specifically, how women actually think about this when it comes to relationships. This entire conversation gets messy fast because everyone filters it through their own fears, past experiences, and personal values. But today, we're stripping the emotion out of it and looking at the real psychology behind how women process this topic. Not what people post online to look virtuous, but what actually plays out in real-world relationships. Fair warning, this will challenge beliefs on both sides. So stay with me. 1. The cultural shift. The first thing we have to accept is that the environment has changed dramatically. What society expected from women half a century ago versus what it expects now is almost unrecognizable. Birth control, the sexual revolution, shifting gender roles, dating apps, all of this reshaped the way people view relationships and sex. Women today have more personal freedom over their bodies and relationship choices than at any other point in history. That's simply the truth. And because of that, their experiences vary more than ever. But here's where the complication comes in. The culture has evolved, but the psychology hasn't fully caught up. Both men and women still have evolutionary instincts and social conditioning running in the background. And for women specifically, there's often a difference between what they're told to think and what they actually feel. Society says the past doesn't matter. Judging someone's history is old-fashioned, and body count shouldn't be a factor. Yet internally, many women still evaluate their choices through the lens of what it means for their relationship value. This isn't about being judgmental. It's about recognizing that humans are layered. We can believe one thing logically while feeling something very different emotionally. Very different emotionally. And that mismatch is where a lot of the confusion around this topic sits. 2. The pair bonding question. Let's hit the big argument everyone throws around. Pair bonding. The claim is that having more partners makes it harder for someone to form deep emotional bonds later. There is research showing a connection between a higher number of sexual partners and lower relationship satisfaction or higher divorce rates. But here's what people constantly misunderstand. Correlation doesn't equal causation. Two things happening at the same time doesn't mean one is causing the other. People with higher body counts may simply have attachment styles or relationship patterns that lead to both more partners and less relationship stability. Or maybe people who struggle with commitment naturally end up with more partners as a result. The cause and effect isn't as simple as people want it to be. From a female psychology standpoint, here's the real story. Women who've had a lot of casual experiences often report feeling less fulfilled by casual sex over time, not more. The dopamine drops, the emotional emptiness rises, and eventually, many of them want something different because the casual route no longer works for them. Does that mean they can't pair bond? Not necessarily. It may actually mean they've reached a point where they're more ready for something serious precisely because they've lived the opposite. But there's another factor: comparison. Once someone has had many partners, comparing becomes unavoidable. If she's been with 20 guys, chances are someone outperformed you in one area or another. And that comparison, for either gender, is one of the fastest ways to kill satisfaction in any part of life, including relationships. 3. What women genuinely think about their own past. Here's something most men underestimate. Women think about their own body count far more than guys believe, and they often have complicated emotions around it. Some women truly feel empowered by their experiences. They see them as freedom, exploration, and living life on their terms. No regrets, no desire for a partner who judges them. But many women, when they're being brutally honest with themselves, have mixed feelings. They might regret certain choices. They may wish they had been more selective. They may realize some encounters were more about validation or emotional escape than real desire. And that impacts how they show up in relationships. A woman who carries shame about her past will get defensive when the topic appears. She might lie or get angry. Not always out of deception, sometimes because she hasn't fully made peace with her history. A woman who is at peace, she won't be defensive. She'll simply say, "This is my past. Take it or leave it." Here's the psychological reality. Most women don't want judgment from a partner, but many of them quietly judge themselves already. They're wrestling with whether their choices were empowering or mistakes, and they're hoping their partner won't amplify that internal conflict. 4. Does it predict relationship success? If you're wondering whether a woman's body count determines whether she'll be a good partner, here's the truth. The number alone tells you almost nothing. What matters is the pattern behind it. Was she in a wild college phase but matured since? Was she coping with trauma or stress through sex? Or is she still living that lifestyle with no desire for a deeper connection? Two women can have the same number of partners but completely different psychologies behind it. What actually matters is how she talks about intimacy and relationships. Is she able to be emotionally vulnerable? Does she prioritize depth or novelty? Can she communicate openly? Is she capable of commitment and emotional work? These qualities predict relationship success far more than a number. Plenty of women with low body counts struggle with intimacy, insecurity, or commitment. And plenty of women with higher numbers have done the inner work and become amazing long-term partners. At the end of the day, relationships fail because of poor communication, mismatched values, or emotional immaturity, not because of a number. 5. The male insecurity factor. We have to talk about why this triggers so many men. Often, the obsession with body count isn't about her past. It's about his insecurity. Men fear comparison. They're afraid they won't measure up, that the guys before them were better, or that she's only settling because the men she truly wanted didn't commit. These fears feel real even when they aren't logical, and women can feel that insecurity instantly. When a man fixates on body count, many women interpret it as insecurity. And insecurity is one of the least attractive traits to a woman. Here's the truth. If you truly know your value, if you're secure and grounded, her past becomes just information, not a threat. If you're insecure, every past guy becomes a ghost you're fighting against. And that dynamic destroys relationships. The mature approach is this: know your values. Know your boundaries. If a high body count violates your core values, that's legitimate. But don't disguise insecurity as morality. Be honest with yourself about why it matters to you. 6. The honesty dilemma. Should she tell you the truth? Should you even ask? From a psychological standpoint, this question puts women in a lose-lose situation. Tell the truth. Risk judgment. Hide the truth. Risk losing trust later. That's why many relationship experts suggest not asking for a number at all. Not because it's irrelevant, but because the conversation usually does more harm than good. But here's the other side. If this truly matters to you, pretending it won't fix anything. It just postpones the conflict. The healthiest approach is this. Don't ask for a number. Ask about values. Ask about relationship patterns. Ask about what she's looking for now. You'll learn everything you need to know without turning it into a math test. And if she chooses to share, listen without attacking her for being honest. 7. The real questions that matter. Instead of obsessing over body count, here's what actually predicts compatibility. What does intimacy mean to her? How does she view monogamy and commitment? What has she learned from past relationships? Does she take responsibility for her mistakes? How does she handle conflict? What are her goals now, and does her behavior align with them? These questions reveal who she is today. A body count only tells you who she used to be. And most women want to be seen for who they are now, not reduced to a number that might not reflect their current values or growth. Bottom line, body count matters to some people and not to others. Neither side is wrong. What is wrong is pretending you don't care when you actually do, or judging someone's entire character based on one metric. Focus on character, alignment, and connection. That's what truly makes a relationship work. But before we wrap up, there's one more point most people overlook. The part where all of this actually becomes practical for your life. Because at the end of the day, understanding the psychology behind this topic isn't about judging women or trying to accost someone in their past. It's about clarity. It's about understanding why people behave the way they do and what that means for the kind of relationship you want to build. And here's the reality most men never consider. You don't need a woman with a perfect past. You need a woman with a healthy present. You need someone who has learned from her experiences instead of running from them. You need someone whose choices today reflect maturity, self-awareness, and emotional stability. Body count is a number. Character is a pattern. Values are a direction. And relationships are built on patterns and direction, not numbers. So instead of obsessing over what she did before she met you, start paying attention to who she is now. Is she consistent? Does she respect you? Does she take accountability? Does she choose you with intention, not convenience? Does she show up with honesty, transparency, and emotional steadiness? Because that's what long-term compatibility looks like. The men who win in relationships aren't the ones trying to control a woman's past. They're the ones strong enough to evaluate her present without insecurity and lead the relationship with clarity. If you're serious about building something meaningful, focus on alignment, not numbers. Focus on compatibility, not insecurity. And focus on the future you're building, not the past she lived. And here's the truth a lot of men don't want to admit. When you stop fixating on what she did before she met you and start looking at how she behaves with you, everything becomes a lot clearer. A woman who's genuinely ready for a real relationship shows it in her actions. She doesn't keep you guessing. She doesn't hide her intentions. She doesn't give you inconsistent energy or make you feel like you're competing with ghosts from her past. She chooses you deliberately. She respects the relationship. She invests emotionally, mentally, and practically. And most importantly, she treats the relationship like something that matters, not something she'll replace the second things get tough. That's what maturity looks like. That's what emotional readiness looks like, and that's what you should be evaluating. Far more than a number. Because here's the bottom line truth. A woman's history can tell you where she's been, but her patterns tell you exactly where she's going. If her past is chaotic but her present is stable, consistent, and aligned with her goals, she's moving in the right direction. If her past is calm but her present is chaotic, impulsive, and unpredictable, the low body count won't save her from being a poor long-term partner. Men get in trouble when they judge the wrong things. Judge her character, judge her values, judge her ability to commit, to communicate, to stay grounded when life gets messy. Those traits determine relationship success, not how many partners she's had. And if you're a man who's operating from strength, from clarity, from a grounded sense of self, you won't be threatened by her past. You'll simply evaluate whether her present aligns with your standards. That's how high-value men move. That's how confident men choose partners. And that's how you build a relationship that actually lasts. Before we close this out, there's one final piece men rarely think about, and it's the part that actually determines whether a relationship thrives or falls apart. It's this: a woman's past might shape who she was, but your standards shape what you accept now. Most guys never take the time to define what they actually want. They just react to fear, react to insecurity, react to social pressure. But a grounded man, a man who knows his worth, approaches relationships differently. He doesn't panic about her past. He doesn't interrogate her with insecurity. He doesn't cling to numbers as a way to compensate for his own self-doubt. Instead, he evaluates from a place of strength. He watches how she behaves when she's stressed. He pays attention to whether she takes responsibility or plays the victim. He studies whether she's consistent or if she falls apart whenever life gets uncomfortable. He notices how she treats him, not when things are perfect, but when things get imperfect, because that's where real character shows up. A mature woman, regardless of her history, will move towards you with intention and clarity. She'll show transparency instead of hiding. She'll communicate instead of playing games. She'll build with you instead of testing you to see how much you'll tolerate. And that's the type of woman who can partner with a strong man. The point is simple. Body count might reveal a chapter, but character reveals the whole book. Don't get confused by the wrong metric. Don't make decisions based on a number that might not reflect who she has become. And don't let insecurity disguise itself as his standards. Real standards come from maturity. Real standards come from clarity. Real standards come from knowing exactly what kind of future you want and choosing a woman whose present aligns with that vision. So if you want a relationship that actually lasts, stop letting her past distract you from evaluating her present. And if this video helped you think differently, hit subscribe, because we're diving deeper into the psychology most men never get taught.